It was past midnight in the grand mansion that overlooked the city's glittering skyline. The house was silent, the kind of silence that only exists in the homes of the rich, where even the clock seemed to tick softly out of respect. But tonight, the billionaire owner, Alexander Knight, couldn't sleep. Something felt different. He had been working late in his study, surrounded by piles of documents and the cold light of his laptop screen, but an odd, faint glow from the kitchen had caught his eye through the hallway mirror. Curious, he stood up and walked quietly across the marble floors. His footsteps echoed slightly, the sound swallowed by the mansion's vastness. As he neared the kitchen, he noticed the faint rustling of paper and the soft sound of someone whispering words. He frowned. At this hour, who could be awake? Peeking around the doorway, he froze. There she was, Emily, his maid. She was sitting at the kitchen table under the soft light of a chandelier, her uniform slightly wrinkled after a long day of work. Her eyes were fixed on a thick book, pages filled with mathematical equations and business notes. Next to her, a half-finished cup of tea had gone cold. Her lips moved silently as she solved problems on a piece of paper, her brows furrowed in concentration. For a moment, Alexander just watched her. There was something powerful about the sight, a quiet determination glowing in her eyes that he hadn't seen in anyone for years, not even in his business partners. He finally spoke. Emily. Startled, Emily jumped to her feet, the book almost falling from her hands. "Yes, sir. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, I was just..." Alexander raised a hand gently. "Relax. I'm not angry. I just didn't expect anyone to be awake this late." Her cheeks flushed, and she nervously clutched the book to her chest. "I couldn't sleep, sir. I was just studying." "Studying," he repeated, intrigued. "At 1 in the morning?" She nodded, lowering her eyes. "Yes, sir. I'm preparing for an exam. I didn't want to disturb anyone." "What kind of exam?" There was a long pause. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, "A university scholarship exam. I'm trying to get into business school." Alexander blinked, surprised. He hadn't known much about her beyond the fact that she was efficient, quiet, and never complained. "Business school? You want to study business?" "Yes, sir. I want to start my own company one day. Something that helps people like me, people who work hard but never get a chance." Her words hung in the air. In that moment, Alexander felt something shift inside him. He had built an empire worth billions, but he couldn't remember the last time he'd heard someone speak with that kind of pure, burning ambition. He walked closer, pulling out a chair across from her. "May I?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. He sat down, glancing at the open book, a textbook on financial accounting, advanced level. "This isn't easy stuff," he said quietly. "Where did you learn all this?" Her eyes softened. "From books I borrowed from the library, sir. And from YouTube lectures. I save a little from my salary every month to buy second-hand books." He smiled faintly. "You're quite something, Emily." She shook her head. "No, sir. I'm just trying." He studied her face, the exhaustion, the hope, the quiet fire. "When's your exam?" "Next month." "And after that?" "If I pass, I'll get a full scholarship. But I'm not sure I can afford to take time off work to attend classes. I'm still saving up." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was filled with the soft ticking of the wall clock. Then Alexander stood up and looked out the window. The city lights blinked in the distance, and he thought of his own journey, how he'd started from nothing, fighting his way through every obstacle until he built his empire. "Emily," he said finally, turning back to her, "how long have you been working here?" "Almost 2 years, sir." "And before that?" "My mother was sick, so I worked in smaller jobs, cleaning, babysitting, anything I could find. I didn't finish college because I had to take care of her. After she passed away, I promised myself I'd try again. I don't want her sacrifice to be wasted." Alexander felt his throat tighten. There was something in her voice, not pity, not sadness, but resilience. He nodded slowly. "You remind me of someone," he said. "Who, sir?" "Myself." Her eyes widened slightly, but he continued, "When I was younger, I worked nights at a cafe just to afford classes. I know what it means to fight for a dream." For a moment, their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, two different worlds colliding in quiet understanding. "Emily," he said after a pause, "if you truly want to study, I'll help you." Her jaw dropped. "Yes, sir. I'll sponsor your education. You won't have to worry about fees or books. And you can still work part-time here if you wish." Her eyes filled with tears. "Sir, I can't accept that. You've already done so much." He shook his head gently. "No. You've earned it. You remind me why I started all this, why success should mean more than money." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I don't know how to thank you." "Promise me one thing," he said with a faint smile. "That one day, when you make it, you'll help someone else who needs a chance." She nodded, her voice trembling. "I promise." Alexander smiled, then quietly left the kitchen, leaving her standing there with tears and hope mixing on her face. That night, Emily stayed up even later, not because she had to study, but because for the first time, she believed that her dream wasn't impossible. 6 months later. The morning sunlight poured into the mansion, and Alexander was in his study again, reading the day's reports. A knock came on the door. "Come in," he said. Emily stepped in, no longer in her maid's uniform but in a crisp white blouse and black blazer. In her hands was an envelope. "Sir," she said with a bright smile, "I passed. I got into the business program." Alexander looked up, smiling genuinely. "I knew you would." She handed him the envelope, her acceptance letter, and he could see the happiness shining in her eyes. "You made it happen, sir. I'll never forget this." He leaned back, smiling. "You made it happen, Emily. I just gave you the push." She laughed softly, and for the first time, he noticed how confident she had become, standing tall, full of purpose. That moment, Alexander realized something profound. Sometimes, the greatest investment a billionaire can make isn't in stocks or companies, but in people. And as Emily walked out of his office, ready to begin her new life, Alexander whispered to himself, "That's what success really means." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories that remind you, kindness can change lives. Your one click can help us spread positivity to the world.